Hey, welcome to the Wills Podcast. This is a space where we explore logistics, family business, leadership, and much more. Today on the podcast, we got a good friend of mine, Mikhel Sickand. He is building businesses. We did our MBA together, so we talk about the learning journey. We talk about building a network. We talk actually a lot about helicopters, and you'll find out why. Glad you can join us.
Well, lucky for you, absolutely no prep here.
That's perfect.
Okay.
That works out good.
Maluki, if you could just cut out all the mistakes, that would be great, man. Just cut it together real nice.
Mikhel, resident of Smith Falls, friend of mine, helicopter industry, and that's been evolving in the last few years. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got in the industry.
Okay, so as you said, I'm a helicopter guy. Kind of got into the industry in a roundabout way. Went to school, biochemistry out of all the things. Took like 6...
Alma mater?
No,
Carleton
not
University.
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah well,
Yeah.
I don't even know what alma mater means. Everybody keeps saying that. I've never looked it up before.
Latin for the university that you went to?
Oh, that's it?
I think so.
Oh, it just sounds
Alma
so
mater,
fancy.
does that sound right?
Okay. Okay, off to a great start, Jordy.
So after school, what did you study?
Okay, so after not knowing what alma mater was, so Carleton University, biochemistry. Took like 6 years to do like a 3-year degree. I was like, did not do well. Bartended for a bit and then just decided to go back to school to become an AME, which is an aircraft maintenance engineer, and fell in love with helicopters. And then, never looked back. Then close to a decade went by, moved my way up, went from my apprenticeship to being an engineer, doing some work in Africa, and then coming back, moving up to northern Saskatchewan, taking over a base of about 27 helicopters, managed that base for a while, and then moved up to assistant director of maintenance, and then, moved on upwards and onwards. And so helicopter guy. And so now, predominantly work on Blackhawks in the US, some Australian work, and, on the cusp of maybe Indonesia, Malaysia, that kind of thing. So now started our business within the helicopter industry. Yeah.
Let me back up one step. What was
Sure.
the thought? What was the thought with biochem?
Oh man, biochem. It's the same thought. I think, I don't know, and I feel like it could be very relevant today. I think, when we were coming up, everybody was pushing you to go into university. Like, you need to go to university, you need to go get your 4-year degree, that's where you want to do. And like, I know it's super like a stale thing to say now, but like nobody was pushing trades. But it's so true. If someone just came to me and said, hey Mick, you've been working on, you did your first brake job on a car when you were 10 years old, you know what I mean? Which I did, and with my dad, and just said, hey, maybe it's probably better if you start looking at a trade. You could at 21 be flying around Canada in a helicopter and see parts of Canada that no one's ever seen or very few people have seen. That probably would have interested me a little bit more than going, hey, you need to go to university. You should probably think about sciences or math.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, looking back, I leveraged that degree for a whole bunch of different things, including going back to school. But looking back now, I mean, like, I've worked with kids, still kids I went back to being a mechanic when I was 26. These guys were 19, 20 years old, coming out of school as an apprentice, and then, give it till 21. They can sign out an aircraft with, 9, 10 passengers on board in what we're doing. And I mean, like, it's like just such a different capacity than what I was doing at 21, still in university. Yeah, so.
What's interesting, we've had Ron, he's the director of the Upper Canada District School Board, and he's passionate about the trades, but he knew he wasn't the best person for it, so he had somebody from the Ottawa School Board come to our school board to really push this, because his theory was, who are students going to talk to? They're going to talk to a guidance counselor. Mm-hmm. A guidance counselor has what degree? They have a university degree, right? So there's always a slight bias there.
Yeah.
Right? And so you've got thousands of students or millions of students in Canada talking to people that have a bit of a bias. right? Because the trades didn't get like fully represented for that time. I think now there has been like a bit of a shift. But yes, when you and I were going, it was like
Yeah.
that was the track. They even named the tracks after it. One was called college and
Right.
university, right?
Yeah.
So there was some repercussions of that in the trades later on and right now.
Yeah, and I think the stigma back in the day too, and for whatever reason, I don't know why I had that stigma. I don't know if it was explicitly someone saying that to me, but it's always you can get paid more as a white collar, or you could get paid more to go to university or whatever. And it's like completely not true. Like I make more money than I ever thought I could ever make doing what I do now. Even when they were there, I was in college, back in college, training to do this job. Even then, they were saying you cap at this, you cap at that, but like a good tradesperson who's like a little bit more enterprising, who comes up, does like a decade probably, or 5, 6, 7 years, a little bit less now because there's nobody in the industries, who can like not only understand that it's a trade and then it's a craft, and then understanding maybe some of the enterprising parts, building a business around it, being a little bit more of an entrepreneur, finding those opportunities, can do very well for themselves. Very well for themselves, and a lot quicker.
So step back, the Canadian helicopter scene or industry,
Or
like,
lack thereof.
yeah, like relative to our like on a per capita basis, do we have a lot of helicopters in Canada? Maybe compared to other nations.
Oh man, I should know this. You got to think about it. There's civilian and then there's military.
Yeah.
So we'll just talk about civilian side. Yeah, and there's quite a few helicopters in Canada. Obviously, I mean it's just like it's a huge shortage right now in terms of operators. And then I don't quote me on this. I probably shouldn't.
Yeah, go for
Maliki,
it.
you can cut this out if you need to, but like there just seems to be a huge discrepancy between the Canadian market and the U.S. market. But there's also 10 times productivity in the United States, 10 times the people in the United States. We all know that metric, right? So when you think about Canada, the United States, which is generally where I float between, Canada is a little bit less, and they don't have the budgets, they don't have the experience, they don't have the operator's capacity, and they don't have the aircraft platforms. Mm-hmm. And then I think one thing specifically is Canada's a little bit more restrictive on what they offer. So when you see these big blowups in Jasper, so one of the biggest things we typically do on our side is we do, there's VIP, there's mining, and then the biggest one is forest firefighting. So we fight fires, and so I'm a mechanic, so I'll go with that aircraft. That aircraft has a tank or a bucket on it, and it'll go with the pilots, and they'll go fight, drop water. Yeah. And then every night it comes back, and we'll fix that. We'll fix the helicopter, make sure it's running right. So every year before the fires kind of take off, a bunch of helicopters go out and they park at these spots, and they wait to get picked up. And then every year you'll see, or every other year, it's getting worse and worse. We're getting these national emergencies, right, where they're just bringing up these restricted category aircraft, which typically perform a little bit better from the unregistered aircraft from the States to help out. And but they're also trying to really hard to build that infrastructure in Canada as well and bring that up with specific types and platforms. And there's a whole bunch of politics going on with that right now. So yeah, it's kind of I don't know how many are in Canada specifically, but not a crazy amount, like a lot less than you might expect.
But fairly critical for emergency response, because we have a ton of remote communities. Yeah. Like our country has thousands of remote communities, and so there's health things related to that, and then fires. Like, as a country, we would be up there in terms of number of fires per year, right?
Yeah, I mean, our season's short, right? Whereas in the States and like Florida, it'll burn from January all the way right till the end of summer. So typically Canada has a pretty short fire season. But I think what people don't typically understand is that fires, as long as it looks like we put them out, they typically, like the one that keeps bouncing up in in Alberta, it like burrows underground and it burns underground for the whole winter, and then it sparks right back up. And like typically every 5 years, you'll have like a pretty bad fire season. It's typically, you could almost predict it. And But for instance, like over the last couple of years, when HCS and a bunch of other operators, like there wasn't enough assets in the country, and they had to bring them up. They had to bring them up from the United States, restricted category and everything, and registered.
Just terminology, restricted category.
Yeah, so restricted category is a pretty cool category aircraft that's pretty much, well, up until this year has been banned from Canada. And this is a little bit of a hot topic. But the Black Hawk is a restricted category aircraft. The Chinook, the CH-47Fs are restricted category aircraft. Some of the Sky Cranes, the big ones with the hollow belly that can lift a ton of weight, those are restricted category aircraft. They typically have a better performance profile than civilian category, just because they were always maintained and run typically in a military capacity, and then they were released out to the civilian population. But you can operate them commercially, but you can't necessarily put unessential crew in it. So you can't transfer passengers, but you can still do aerial work. Right. So that's not. I mean, there's a lot of things wrong with what I just said there, but just as a generalization, it's like they're just restricted. You can't fly them over heavily or dense populated areas. So,
the Canadian, and my assumption is, like, I'm pretty uneducated in this area, but the Canadian Air Force, we're not leading the way, right? Our fleet's probably gotten a bit older, which has therefore kept that restricted category. Kept it going or influenced it?
Well, so yeah, in Canada, we don't necessarily have restricted category aircraft right now. Typically, they're from the US, and typically they're N-registered. But for the CAF, it's actually pretty interesting, because when you look at our fleet, it's not for a lack of trying. So I was just at CANSEC, and they're out there with the H-125.
22,000 people went to CANSEC.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. It was crazy. You were bumping into everybody, like literally bumping into everybody. But yeah, Sikorsky was there. Boeing was there with the CH-47 Block 2 aircraft. Airbus had a display with the new 135s with Kelowna Flightcraft, and then they had like the 175 there too. All these new types, which is crazy. So it's not for a lack of trying to get, but for whatever reason, CAF has gone and picked up the Griffins, which are a 412 Bell 412s. And then I think they're still running the CH-47 Block 1 aircraft. I actually don't know a terrible amount, but yeah, it's definitely an aging thing. And then with the whole F-35 thing that was happening, and then, we've obviously heard a lot about the F-18s and stuff as well. So yeah, it's definitely a different world. It's definitely not for a lack of trying and lobbying, I think, to get some of the newer style assets into the country. It's just like a very expensive thing to do. I think F-35 is $78 million. I think Sikorsky sells a S-70C, which is the Black Hawk, which is what the U.S. Army and Navy had relied on for so many years, for like $30 million. I think a CH-47F Block 2 aircraft. So a Block 2 aircraft, interestingly, is not a brand new airframe. They take the old style from the Army, bring it over to Boeing. Boeing decks it out, repurposes it, puts a bunch of new stuff on it, and sells it back at $30 million. So not a new airframe. And then I think $60 million to like foreign governments and stuff. So like these aren't cheap. They're not cheap at all. They're crazy, right? And so if you think about the deals,
would Canada ever be in a position to sell?
To sell aircraft?
Yeah, sell.
I think that's the whole point, is to buy Canada, and there's like Bombardier, and there's some other Canadian manufacturers and stuff, and I think they're really trying to push that up. But I just don't think you can compete with some of the products that I think the CAF just generally wants. Sikorsky, Lockheed Martin, same thing now. Boeing products.
Why are they a joint venture?
Lockheed owns Sikorsky now.
Okay.
Yeah. And you see a big presence here in Ottawa, right? You see them all down the highway. You see them all here. They all have offices and stuff as well.
What's the? You've worked how many fire seasons? 10?
12 years worth.
What has been the most intense consecutive days? Like one of the worst seasons, maybe understaffed, maybe you end up.
Oh yeah.
Like, what was one of your most intense summers?
Okay, so last year in La Ronge,
last year in La Ronge?
My last year in La Ronge. Which was year summer of 2023, maybe.
You got to be ready for facts on the Wills podcast.
2021, summer of 2021, and I forget when I moved here.
Well, we met in the summer of 2022.
So yeah, maybe it was
21 summer.
Summer of 2021. Dude, it was nuts, man. No matter what corner you went around up north in Saskatchewan, there was a fire around every single corner. We had all of our aircraft out flying, skeleton crew of engineers just trying to keep up. I think, that was probably the craziest year for me. That when I was working up there, we almost evacuated L'Orange. It was smoke everywhere. It was pretty nuts. You would drive down the highway and it looked like it's snowing because there was so much ash in the air. You drive down the highway and they would just drop. We were essential crew, so no matter where the aircraft was, we always had to get there. So we would sometimes have to drive down the highway past fires, and you'd see them off on the side burning, just burning. So that was a pretty crazy year, and I remember that year started with, there was a fire in Prince Albert that burnt down a power line that supplied L'Orange. So we had to dispatch a heavy, like last minute call,
which
a large aircraft, yeah, a heavy out, and we didn't have any power to put fuel in the aircraft. So we had to get the gas generators out. We had to figure out a way to get from the tank into our aircraft. Then we had to dispatch it to fight the fire so that then they could rebuild the pole and get us power. So that's how that year started. And it was funny because it was still snowing at the time.
Yeah.
We still had a forest fire, still snowing. It was wet. And so when we lost power on L'Orange, everybody was still cold, right? So it was just an interesting year. And then it just escalated. Everything escalated that year. So
you would have had like a few weeks straight of work, like your longest stretch.
Oh yeah, we can't talk about that because there's regulations. Well, more so for pilots, but and for good reason. But under national emergencies, they waive all those. So just look at a couple years ago. It was just, I think it was a Calgary or it was Edmonton that was getting really lit up. It was like when we were in school, right? And we actually just brought the first Black Hawk into Canada. And I was managing that program specifically. And we got a call and we had a sales assignment that next day. And I was like, anyways, we were in Chapleau, we were just flying over. And that year specifically turned into, I think they waived all the duty times on the pilots. So pilots typically is 150 hours they can fly in a month or 3-week time or 4-week time. And they waived all that. And you started having accidents just purely because there wasn't enough operators with enough assets, with enough pilots and enough mechanics. That's what it was. And and then they were even bringing up assets from the United States to help, and there still wasn't enough to manage all what was going on. And so it's pretty interesting. And then they kind of waived all that, and then you had aircraft chopping long lines with their blades and like underneath other helicopters and some really crazy stuff happening.
Wow.
Just purely because there wasn't enough manpower.
Wow.
And so either become a pilot or become an AME because there's jobs.
Is there a legit shortage?
100%. In Canada, there's a legit shortage. And in the States, there's 40,000. They need 40,000 more AMEs. I think that's the number by 2027 to keep everything going. And so remember, it's not just helicopters. It's all of aviation. It's commercial airlines like the Uniteds, the Air Canadas. These guys all employ AMEs to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you get an AME license, you're essentially an extension of the regulatory body. So whether that's FAA or Transport Canada, they kind of bless you to be an extension of the Transport Canada or of the FAA in order to sign out an aircraft. So you, as a person, hold the responsibility to sign out the maintenance on that specific aircraft, and only you with that license can do that. And that's the only way they can release an aircraft to fly. And so that's the responsibility you hold. And yet it's still not a red seal trade in Canada. And it's probably the most.
It's not a red seal trade.
It's not a red seal trade. Yet it's it's probably the highest regulated trade.
Yeah.
And then another super interesting thing too, it's super underrated. I don't think when I came up anybody was talking about it, but it's definitely the coolest because you get to work.
So in the aircraft industry, AMEs, who thinks they have the best?
Well, the helicopter guys obviously have it the best, but here's the downside. The downside is you're always away. I'm gone 300. So I met my wife now 10 years ago. From the minute we met, I was gone 245 days plus a year. That hasn't gone down. It's only gone up. So I'm gone about 300 days a year, traveling, doing some cool stuff, right? But you're always flying. You're always you're always kind of stressed because you have an aircraft to take care of. But you're traveling all over the world, right? South America, Indonesia, Australia, all that stuff. So there's like good and bad, but you are always gone. And so typically the guys who typically want to be at home and have families and want that more like maybe work balanced life, as they should, right? Typically migrate to the airlines, and they have really good jobs at the airlines. Yeah.
Go work at Pearson, like shift work.
Yeah, or even here, Porter has some like we lost a lot of guys in the last couple of years, helicopter dudes, like good helicopter guys to Porter Airlines because they offer like a really good package, and they're doing some really good stuff for AMEs because I think the shortage is coming or it's already here. Yeah, so
can you pull someone off the street? Like let's say you had a shop, okay, you managed a shop. Can you pull someone off the street, put them through, have them work on stuff that won't jeopardize all the regulations, and then they go to school? Or do you don't want to see anyone
No, you do. There's definitely an avenue in Canada. You can, instead of going to school and getting your 18 months, you can do procure on the job. No, maybe that's the ANP. ANP you can do complete on the job and then use that training. And then in Canada you need to go to school for 18 months, and but yeah, there's very much you could start before you go to school, get some experience, but you can't necessarily sign out anything else, sign out an aircraft, but you can have a guy who looks over your shoulder as you work on it, and then it's up to that AME that signs out the aircraft to approve that work.
Yeah.
And there's probably a little bit wrong with what I just said there, so don't. So anybody else is an AME, I'm just generalizing.
We're not.
Yeah.
Will's podcast hasn't been tracking super well on the aircraft, but after this one.
Right.
Best day is an AME, aircraft mechanic, engineer.
Yeah, aircraft maintenance engineer.
Maintenance engineer.
Yeah,
sorry.
best day is best day is an AME. Dude, I don't know, man. Every day that's generally like I just like building stuff, and
one rewarding moment.
Oh man, I am a little bit of a, I guess, sicko in the fact that the harder it is, the harder that week was, or the more crisis driven it was, the more like a group of guys or the crew has to like bind together to get through a tough moment. Those are the best moments for me. And so I can think of like so many moments in the Canadian Arctic trying to get out of, a storm, or fixing things last minute, or getting an aircraft, that sense of purpose and that drive. So first of all, fixing a car is one thing, but then fixing a Black Hawk is like another thing. So like, yeah, anytime you fix something and that aircraft takes off and flies and doesn't crash, it's a great day. And it's also very, 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 very rewarding. So
yeah, when you buy a car and then drive the dealership off, the dealership is not sitting there worried about your safety. They've made the sale. If something comes up, right, you'll be back at the shop, or you may have to pull over one day on the side of the road, right? Like, it's just a totally different game.
Yeah, I tend to compare it a lot to cars, but yeah, cars you can typically pull over. Not all the time, and there's still a lot of safety hazards with mechanics working on cars. But yeah, definitely the stakes are a little bit higher. But I mean, that's why if you think about what the responsibility of an AME, and then you think about everything, and I think this has been going around a lot lately, is like just trying to conceptualize how many moving pieces need to come together for you on that plane, that 757 or that 787 or whatever, to about fly over the Atlantic to go wherever you need to go. The amount of moving pieces that need to come together for you to take off at the exact time that you need to take off. And so I think about that all the time when I'm sitting on a plane and people are getting frustrated about being 15 minutes late. I'm like, let's just not rush it.
Yeah.
We don't need to rush it.
Hi, my name's Mikhel. I'd just like to give a little context for your attitude, sir.
Yeah.
You have no idea the supporting services and work it takes, and money that it takes to be here. And this 15 minutes, maybe the best 15 minutes of your life to save you.
But it's so funny. I think generally people are getting better, are just like having a little bit of a, like I just haven't seen a whole lot of frustrated people on planes lately when you're getting delayed. But I think everybody needs to remember you're just about to get shot into the air at 800 kilometers an hour in a composite tube. Not even a metal tube anymore, a composite tube. So we can all just take our time.
Take our time and be grateful.
Yeah.
Ask someone if they need any help.
Yeah.
Actually, I sat on the tarmac for the full maximum time that you're allowed to sit on the tarmac
Oh damn.
in San Fran a few weeks ago, and then there was, yeah, it was a long day. But listen to this though. Here's why. It was because of one oxygen mask.
Oh no.
So
Oh no.
yeah, so we were thinking about our safety. We were like, hey, someone can share a mask here.
I just love it when it's like a case like that, and they have to remind you, this is FAA regulated, right? So it's just their way of saying we know this is crazy, but it's the law.
The other one is if that overhead doesn't click, they can't do anything, right?
Oh man, I didn't actually know that.
If the overhead, we've had that before, and you see a full-on maintenance person who's probably used to putting airplanes together comes on to look at the overhead that won't click, and they can't fly until that thing is locked. Speaking of maintenance and airplanes, so you got to work on a Black Hawk that was part of putting it together in the U.S., bringing it to Canada, and how many parts make up a helicopter? Because you're a parts guy.
I guess I'm a parts guy. It's interesting enough because we are building this platform. It's called Bladestack, and what it does is it helps aviation teams make just better decisions around every part of an asset, like an aircraft. And so one of the things we did was when we were building the platform is we do everything from if you look at a stock, and the stock is like a fundamental, like you can look at the fundamentals of the stock or look at the market price. Well, the industry right now runs on market price. So we look at everything from the fundamentals. And one of the things we were looking at as we were building out this object model or this platform that is serial number specific, model specific driven for these aircraft, is that we got the final amount of parts that takes up, there's 55,000 part numbers. Now, I mean, there's some supersessions in there and stuff, but a Black Hawk has about 55,000 part numbers logged for it, which is super interesting. Crazy.
Yeah, I wonder how that compares to a vehicle. I think there's a few thousand.
Wait, sorry. Maybe I'm looking to cut this out. Sorry, there's about 55,000 part numbers across 5 models of aircraft for Bell. Wow. And I think the Black Hawk's closer to 11 or 12, but it's quite a bit.
Yeah. So before we chat about Bladestack, what by the way, just if you could geek out, what is it about the Black Hawk? Because you gave I have a picture of a Black Hawk you gave me in my office.
Yeah, I'm such a nerd, dude.
And we talk about Black Hawks a lot. And so geek out. What is it about it?
I don't know, man. So again, back to restricted category aircraft, Black Hawks were only ever available, and you were only ever going to touch one or work on one if you were part of the U.S. Army or military or something, right? And so I think when I got into the industry, nobody was flying Black Hawks on the civilian side. And so it was always this thing you would see in magazines. It's this iconic aircraft, right? And which is just completely badass and in every single way. And it's in all the movies. It's all in all the action films, right? All the stories.
Guys hanging out the side.
Yeah, guys hanging out the side.
Big weapons.
Oh, there you go. That's probably the best day as an aircraft maintenance engineer is finally being able to stick my feet out the side of a Black Hawk one day when we were flying a few years ago, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah. What song was playing?
Nothing. It was so loud. It's so loud in an aircraft. You can't talk to each other. So
what's one of the most famous of what's that movie with the scene and there's that song and they're on the side of the helicopter.
It's like every movie.
Every movie. Yeah.
So I think that's probably why it's just this iconic aircraft that I never thought I'd be able to work on. And then really funny enough, I kind of came up and then just got moved back to Ottawa from L'Orange, and they're just like, hey, so we're buying some Black Hawks. And I only ever heard about them operating in the States on the civilian side, and we never had any in Canada.
When did the U.S. allow civilian purchase?
2016, 2014 maybe. I think the first one started coming off of it. And then those people, I don't
think of the volume though. They had the graduated units from the military, right? And was it about having to do something with them, or was it about people finding a way to purchase these from the military.
Here's a crazy thing that I've realized. Have you heard that thing is like nobody knows what they're doing? Like stop assuming that people know what they're doing in their positions, right? Yeah, everybody's just kind of figuring it out.
Yeah.
Well, government services auctions and I think the U.S. Army is just figuring it out as well. I think they didn't really have a plan. They're just like, we don't need these aircraft anymore. Let's just see what happens when we put it out there. And then a couple guys were like, this is really cool. And they ended up purchasing them. No idea what they were doing. There was no avenue to put them back out on the civilian side or fly it. They figured it all out. And then eventually it caught on to more and more people. It's just I just find it fascinating that people are able to take those risks and do those things. And I feel like no one really had a plan for the first ones that were coming off of
That's
auction.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there would have been thousands or hundreds anyways.
Yeah, there's
hundreds.
About 500, 490 something now that have come off of auction since 2014.
Wow. What is it about that model platform? What is it about it that makes it this all-purpose? Not only is it cool looking, it's been in movies and they've been totally decked out by the Air Force, but like now for a multi-use heavy or larger aircraft, like what is it about it that? What's the appeal for, when I'm looking at it from an investment standpoint, if I've got a company and we're in emergency response or what is it about that aircraft?
Okay, so that's a good question. So when the Black Hawk was always purpose-driven, designed from Sikorsky for the Army to be the utility helicopter, everything, right? And so now, the performance profile and everything that it comes with, and then the layout and everything just suits it so well, right? It was designed to do that, and it did it really, really, really well. I mean, the first Hawks were in the 70s, and then they built Hawks ever since then till now, and they're still building the same platform, just as the Mike model instead of the Alpha, and they branded it as the S70i. So a lot of upgrades are along the way, but if you can imagine that airframe, the airframe portion of it is largely unchanged from the utility design spec of it.
It's like 50 years now.
Yeah, crazy, right? And so now there's really, every aircraft manufacturer has its thesis on what you need it for, right? So if you look at what Airbus is doing with the 135s, the 145s, and the 140 now, which is this in between, largely EMS, medevac and stuff, and they design their airframes for that kind of role. And the 60 can kind of do a lot of it. It's kind of purpose built to do a lot of it because it had to do it all in the Army. Medevac, if you ever heard of Dust Off, I think it's the medevac 60 thing that was in the Army. It does it all. And so I think that's why. But now in the civilian sector, it's just it's a really good platform to lift heavy things because that's all they can really use it for. Does that make sense? You can't even really put people in it. But then you have public. There's a whole bunch of things here. They have public use versions of this where Cal Fire, they're all running 70s and UH-60s and Ventura County, and they're fighting fires with it, and they can put people in it and stuff and do medevac and stuff as well. So I don't know, does that answer your question?
It sure does, man. It sure does.
Can we just stop talking about helicopters? We talked a lot about helicopters. I don't feel like anybody cares.
you and I did our MBA together. We both came at it from really different angles, but obviously we wanted something similar through it. We ended up getting probably more than we bargained for in a good way in terms of the social network, the professional network, and then, some of the cases and assignments that forced us to dig in and see something through, right?
Yeah.
There's so many benefits to that. But you started your entrepreneurial side really started getting fired up during those days, and you had ideas. You were starting to work with different skill sets of your peers in the class, and started making connections on group projects and stuff like that. And so your entrepreneurial journey has led you where? Maybe talk about that, and then Bladestack, Blade Turbines.
Sure. Okay, we'll just talk about MBA real quick, which is
it's just funny. Real quick.
It's just funny because when I was coming up and I was putting in 80 hours a week, 100 hours a week, I think a lot of people do in this world for employer. I think in the back of my head, I was always kind of want to do this for myself, right? But I think from an entrepreneurial standpoint, I don't think I was ever delusional enough to think that when you do become your own boss or your own boss, I mean, I think everybody reports to somebody in this world, right? Whether it's investors or a board or whatever. Like I was never delusional enough to think that I could ever make my own hours, right? I think the capacity came from like, or the want to do this. It just came from the grind
Yep.
to do it. And I'll say, like, I think the more and more I thought about what we could do or what you could do out there, the more you learn about the industry and maybe the gaps, I think I was becoming more and more unemployable. And now after starting the entrepreneurship thing, I've become 100% unemployable because I think it's just like this willingness to take risks or pivot or constantly learn or change, right? Yeah. And I think in some roles, not all, but in some roles, you can't do that, right? And I think it's like probably on a scenario basis, but I would say for the first 10, 12, 15 years probably of your career, you should probably just go learn, like do a shit ton of learning, right?
Yeah.
Get paid to learn. And we've talked about this before. It's just like this concept of getting paid to learn as opposed to like what you have to do now as an entrepreneur, which is pay for you to learn if you're getting into another category or something. And so when I went to do my MBA, I think in the back of my head, I mean, when I was like up in L'Orange, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do for a business. And because I was like a wrench and I was just learning to weld and I was
AME.
and AME and I have some project trucks and cars and stuff. And so I was learning to weld and I was like, what if I just weld aluminum boats? And then you're like, what if I could just weld chromoly frames for trophy trucks? Right? There's a lot of welding ideas.
I didn't know this.
Oh, you didn't know this? Okay, and so
this was really business idea number one. Would you
yeah,
say?
yeah, I would say so. Like generally mechanic related. Always wanted to open up a shop or something to that degree. And then I think so. What happened was the president of the company that was working for at the time sat me down and point blank asked me like, "What do you want? Like, what is it that you want to do?" And I think I just remember like thinking, okay. And I think this realization came to me, and sorry, this is a roundabout way of, answer your question. It's like this realization that came to me is that everybody thinks as a mechanic or something or is like natural skill, but it's not. I mean, I did my first brake job with my dad when I was like 9 years old, right, in the garage, and so it wasn't natural skill or whatever. It was like maybe just I didn't clock it as 20. Well, now it's like 30 years of work, 30 years of building these skills and then this intent to put behind something. And so I think that realization kind of came forward. And then I was like, okay, so yeah, no wonder you're decent at this, right? But what I didn't have was like any kind of business sense or business mentality. And I was like, okay, what's the best way? What is the best way to learn this kind of stuff, right? Well, could be school, could take that $100,000, go to school, you could take that $100,000 and put into a business, which I've heard a lot of people do instead. And that's great. And it's great. But I think I knew myself enough to know like, A, I typically need a framework to build upon. B, there's so much more from school. I wouldn't just say an MBA, but from school that you could get, right? Yeah. Like the contacts, the network and all that stuff, right? And then like, I was like really looking forward to this like kind of diving in and that's what I did. And then came out on it. And then I think also too, it's like I had like a huge, very bad experience with university in general. But this time when I went back, not only was I self-funded, self-driven, I made it wasn't forced upon me. I knew this is exactly what I was going to do. Yeah. You get exactly the proportion, like it's very proportional to how much you put in to how much you get out. Yeah. And so when I went back in, it was like with a tremendous amount of drive, right? Yeah. And then I always had this idea that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just wouldn't have called it an entrepreneur back then. And so through the program,
what would you have called it?
I don't know, just like fake entrepreneur or like fake business person or like, I don't know. So aspiring entrepreneur.
AME.
Yeah.
Student.
Yeah.
Entrepreneur.
Yeah, but now I look back on it, man, and if I could sum it up in like a couple words, I guess. You know how we learned about the Dunning-Kruger principle, right? The whole Dunning-Kruger thing where, and I don't know if Maluki can do this, but if you can put a link up here.
Yeah, they're right there. Point to the spot.
Put a link right here to the Dunning-Kruger.
There'll be a link there, man. Guy can do anything. You reference Maluki so much, by the way. He's gonna be famous.
Like, who is this guy?
And his family always watch the podcast.
Oh yeah.
And they're gonna be like, because Maluki's the Jamie, right? Hey, Joe Rogan's Jamie.
Oh yeah.
Jamie, pull up the link. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's great. So it's just so the Dunning-Kruger principle is like this concept. It's like confidence on the y-axis and like experience on the x, right? And it's a big U. And the thing is like I think what you learn is like you start off with a high confidence and low experience, right? And then as you gain experience, your confidence goes down, right? And then I always, right when I learned that principle, I was like, oh yeah, you want to be up at the top, right? That's not where you want to be. At least I don't think that's where you want to be. I think you want to be at the bottom of the U at all times because your experience is just enough and your confidence is not low, but it's being challenged all the time. And it's a really good place to be in life because you're always leveling up. And if you're always leveling up and you're always surrounding yourself with people who are challenging you or scenarios that are challenging you, then you're always learning, you're always building. And I think that's what the MBA was for me. Or I would imagine like school could be for anybody who wants to go back to it at 32 years old or 30 years old as an adult. That's what that did for me. And it was amazing experience and I got so much out of it. And mind you, like when I was the president of the company that I was working for at the time, who also did the Queen's MBA program, explicitly point blank told me, it was like, I just did it for the 3 little letters and so that people with gray hair would accept me at a table, and that's great, right? But when I was going into it, I was like, I got so much more out of it than that, right?
Yeah.
And so you're gonna have these conflicting people who tell you stuff, but it's all about how much you put in and what you want to get out of it.
Yeah, I feel exactly but I do feel like your journey was so unique to get there. I do. Like your motivation for being there. I don't think any of our peers had a bad motivation, but yeah, there was a lot of like, okay, I've been a director.
Yep.
Okay, that next step is to prove myself.
Yeah.
With this degree, with these projects, whatever, prove myself, and then come out even stronger and being ready for that. But you were on a different path.
Yeah, I definitely was, and I would say those people who did that, I'm sure they got way more out of it, and they were surprised.
And they were surprised. I agree too.
Yeah, it was great. And even if you didn't, and you just needed to get it for 3 little letters, that's fine too. It's unfortunate that you had to do that to prove yourself if you're like a very smart, capable person. For people in the room,
there was people in the room that was like, you probably didn't need to, probably didn't need this.
Yeah, there were some very smart, experienced people.
Yeah, and, you approached it so you wanted to maximize every dollar out of it, like. Going back to what you said, it was so different than your undergrad, right? You got to pick the time. It was in your time. You paid.
Yeah, I paid every cent of. Well, right? The bank paid every cent of it, but yeah, I'm paying back.
I was trying to move quickly through through the money one. You're like,
sorry. Yeah, let's not talk about money right now.
Stop. I'll tell you exactly where I'm at with that one. Yeah. And then number 3 was that you had a strong motivation to what it could do, how it could change your thinking, et cetera. So yeah, you approached it. You were one of the people that made me feel bad of how hard I worked at it.
Right. Yeah. So, the guy
you had imposter syndrome, but so did I. We all had like imposter syndromes from different reasons, but you were working so hard. There's a lady who works here that worked so hard. Worked so hard. Yeah. You and her, and there was a few others. I was like, man, they were putting in some serious time. But I mean, it makes sense why you were, where your life was at and why you did it. But
yeah, the grind was real. I mean, again, in your defense, I don't have 4 kids, and and I think a lot of people I had it pretty good in the sense that my job could take me working on it a little bit and stuff, and whereas like aviation in general is a whole lot of hurry up and wait, so we have some time in between stuff. Whereas managing an entire company with how many people do you employ here?
Thousands.
Of livelihoods on the line. I mean, yeah, it holds a bit of a different weight from somebody who is a fake entrepreneur, aspiring entrepreneur.
AME,
was an aspiring entrepreneur.
Student,
now
AME entrepreneur.
But I will say, it changed the course of my life, man. So.
That's cool. Yeah. You've been, speaking of, you said grinding, you've been grinding even harder than your MBA the last few years, but specifically the last year and a half. Like, so what is it that you're building? Like what problem did you see, and what are you going after? And by the way, I just say this, in the background, I've gotten to know you really well, and it's so interesting as an entrepreneur, but also a technologist in some ways, right? and very hands-on,
Yeah,
right?
love the build stuff.
Like you and I have never talked about, that you want to do it to buy that house to live on that island. Like
Yeah.
you are so interested in fixing a problem. I know that the problem has gone like this, and it's taken on different variations, but it's never been about money. It's been about building something, and it's very commendable. But yeah, so what's the last year or two been like building businesses?
Yeah, sure. So we have a couple, like a group of companies now, Blade Turbines and Bladestack. So we live in the aviation ecosystem. So what does that mean? So, so in the aviation ecosystem, you buy, sell, operate aircraft, right? And so Bladestack specifically, which is the platform we're building right now, helps aviation teams gather, look at, analyze, and make confident, clear decisions based on the data that wraps that whole ecosystem. So typically, like every other industry is dealing with right now, data that's stuffed in PDFs, in silos, maintenance trackers, and component data and stuff. So we extract all of that and we bring it to a place to help aviation teams make clear, confident decisions. So around the life cycle of an asset or a transportation asset. So think helicopter. Super bare bones within the concept, but very complicated when you look at how the aviation world does it. And so we're trying to rectify that. And that's a theme you see across industries right now, is just like with technology allowing us to do what we can do now. How do we build that? How do we make processes and workflows better for the teams that are inside it? So if you think about what is some of these decisions, like again, buying, selling, operating, leasing an aircraft, how does the team know what's the best decision to make at any given time for that specific asset? And like I think I mentioned before, it's like if you think about a stock, fundamentals versus market price, the industry does it by market price. Let's just say the next Musk meme, goes off, Tesla shoots through the roof. That's what it's worth on the market. You never ignore that. But what does the fundamentals say about that stock? The same thing exists for these assets, because a helicopter in the grand scheme of the world is an asset in somebody's portfolio, whoever owns that, whether it's an owner, operator, or a financer. And so we help gain clarity from the maintenance-driven aspect of those assets. So that's the Bladestack platform that we're trying to augment in the industry. And then Blade Turbines, we sell, not exclusively, but we sell UH-60 parts to the Canadian market. There are a few UH-60s hovering around in Canada. And so we provide that, and we do some lease management work as well.
What are the two? So one is one involved building something that hadn't been built before to solve a problem that people who owned aircrafts, right?
Right.
Some of their unanswered questions, or the ability to be able to pull in the best data to make the best decision, right? Because you're dealing with thousands of parts on an aircraft that has an age,
Yeah.
and it's millions of dollars, right?
Exactly.
And so this is supporting that and supporting decision making, and supporting the asset life cycle.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you think about any aircraft, it is a conglomerate of thousands of parts. And then in the aircraft world, if you think about it like a car, so a car has tires that you need to replace, right? Engine oils that you need to replace and stuff, right? But on a $30 billion aircraft level, I mean, those worths are a lot more. And so from a maintenance up perspective, so what's been done to that aircraft, what's coming due, what's the component lives on it, because we have timed components, that really affects the worth of that aircraft. And so, but it's so much bigger than that, because when it comes to operating an aircraft, you're not just looking at the worth of that aircraft at any snapshot in time. You also have to project out. You also have to figure out what's going to cost what are the economics of specific deals that you're doing. Yeah. How does it work for financing? And again, you'd be surprised when it comes to a $30 million aircraft or a $5 million aircraft, how much of this is done on gut feel still. And I just think it's 2026, man. You don't need to do it on gut feel.
So let's just say I'm a cowboy gut feel purchaser, okay?
Yeah.
And my track record's not bad so far.
Yeah.
And there's a lot
Keep going.
There's a lot of margin, right?
Right.
And so this is something that says that's a lot of data, but actually, what value can you demonstrate to that company who has made decisions more based off of like we need one now.
Yep.
Or the margins were good last year. We're in a position to buy maybe another one this year.
Right.
Like, what's that value piece?
Well, first of all, keep going. You're doing something right, I guess, right? But I think the world is naturally changing towards just data-driven decisions, right? It's not necessarily about a gut feel and like an instinct in a purchase based on what you've been doing correctly. It's about having that foil and that value to back up your decisions with confidence. And so that's great. And you should probably keep going if that's what's working for you. But what I've personally seen in the industry so far is that those purchases or that gut feel decisions are often met by a cliff or often met by something that wasn't planned. And then it's all reactive from that. And that could probably make or break a company. Now there's a few companies out there that do things without data-driven decisions. And I think at the end of the day, it really depends on where your company sits in maturity when it comes to looking at data. And our perfect clientele is those that are coming out of that reactive decision-making place, coming to a place where they have enough resources in their management pool or their management layer to get an analyst or start building out some data-driven decisions within their organization. Mm-hmm. And right on that cusp, when they say, hey, we have data here and we can start utilizing it as foil to understand where we're missing out and understand how to optimize, that's where we come in and we say, hey, we have a platform for you to do that very simply. And so now instead of, when I was, working in a fleet department, it would take, 10 people. Now it takes one or two people to use our platform to get all of the realization and the data that a 10-person team typically had to do. Now you can get into a platform that has that for you so that even those companies that maybe don't have the resources right now can start thinking about it and get into having some of those data-driven decisions and analytics right in front of them really early to help them with that foil and help them see where they could be missing out or how to optimize.
Yeah. So you had a vision, and that's where you're at with Bladestack today. But along the way, you taught yourself so much development stuff. Like the theme for you is hands-on, right? Like everything has been hands-on learning, and you could have had a vision and then subbed out all these pieces, and you did some of that, but you also like rolled up your sleeves and you built. And those memes right now about dude, if you aren't vibe coding,
if you're not vibe coding, can we not say the two words though, the two letters? Can we just not? Can we just do a podcast where we don't say it? We'll beat around the bush though. Okay, we'll take the long-winded way of not saying the same.
Well, doesn't that guy say the name of one of the LLMs instead? If you're not vibe coding, on Claude.
Yeah, with Claude. Yeah.
To 3am.
Yeah.
So what happened? You started building, you started developing and teaching yourself stuff, and just you were the guy I would come over for a beer and those screens.
Yeah.
And you
Did
scared
me,
right? I knew that we were different. I knew we could still be friends.
Yeah.
But I knew there was a difference.
If you have more monitors on your desk at any time, it means you're way better at coding. That's what it means. So the more monitors you have, the better.
I thought about it like just having one up, maybe getting a third monitor just to impress. Like, I don't know.
Oh wow, you're a 3-monitor guy?
Monitor.
Yeah, you're handling it.
This is such a
weak setup, dude.
Yeah, I know. It is weak. It's like email on the left, browser on the right. It's like at Will's Transfer, we're fairly technology focused. We encourage all of our teams to be coding throughout the day.
It's so funny because I feel like you saying that right now, there's a bunch of people probably who'd hear that and be like, yeah, you should, like few of our, one of my advisors is like very much on that train as well. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like I'll just okay, so I was still I just became an engineer. So about 12 years ago now, I was sitting in Africa in Lagos, and we had this aircraft, and it was just not flying. And so there was two crews. There was me and someone who was a pilot who was a little bit more administration driven, and then another crew. And the second crew, they would go party till 4 a.m. because they had all the time and stuff, sleep in, and just like have a whole lot of fun. I was stuck with this this pilot who was on his computer all the time, and I was like, and then I actually owe a whole lot of this to him because I've always been someone who like built computers with my dad and stuff like that, but I was never into coding side. I just peeked in his room. I was like, "What you doing? You know what I mean? What are you doing in here all the time?" And he gave me the time. Like he didn't give it to me, but he was like, "Hey, if you want to know," and so I picked up just a bit of Bash, a bit of Linux, a bit of this kind of stuff, and I built my first like media server, right? And I remember for like that. We were on 6-week shifts, right? And we were not flying. So we do the stuff we had to do for the job, and then we would be sitting around, and I would just, instead of like partying or whatever, I would learn to code, right? Learn Bash, learn all these like basic stuff. And I had this guy who was willing to teach me, who just took it out of the goodness of his heart to teach me, right?
Really?
And he taught me a whole bunch of other stuff too. And he was probably the reason why I went into management afterwards and stuff, and the reason why the company saw that I was a bit more than just a wrench. And it was just the greatest decision for me to like peek in and just like learn something that somebody. It's just I hold this with me. If like someone's willing to teach you, which there's not a whole lot of people, you take that opportunity to learn. So in the back of my head, like for the last 12 years after that, I was like, I need to learn how to code. Like I want to do something more than just build a Plex media server and stuff. And then
was it more about the curiosity around code, or was it that he was building something while other people were partying? And like, was it more about like his priorities and how he was driven, or was it both?
I think it was all of it. And I think I just have this curiosity, and I've always wanted to learn to code. I always thought it was the coolest thing. Like, like when you see a movie and there's like a hacker or a coder or something, like that's what I thought was cool, right? And then obviously like the guy who's like building the cars and stuff, right? But I always wanted to learn both sides. And so I had this opportunity, so I did. I chewed off a little bit. And I think in the back of my head, I always want to learn it. But then I had, work, and then, all the stuff on the mechanic side I was learning, and welding and building trucks and stuff, and all that stuff. And then as soon as we're done our MBA, our school, I was like, you know what? Our capacity is like here right now. They said your capacity is going to be up here, and you find a way and you make it happen, right? I was like, I don't really want to drop that right now. Like, there's nothing about, like, I'm exhausted right now, but there's nothing about this that I want it to let go. Why don't we utilize it? So right the minute, I remember the day we submitted our final project or whatever, I signed up for a coding class, the 100 days of code, okay? And this was right at the time when ChatGPT was just getting good enough to write a terrible essay for us in school, right? And so it was right on the cusp of coding. And so I ended up doing this 100-day, I did 300 days straight of coding, and like 2 to 3 hours a day. I'd wake up 4 a.m. I was working at home at the time for another outfit, and I would work till
hold on, you'd work out first?
No, absolutely not.
No, always on podcasts. People wake
oh
up
yeah, sorry, yeah.
Well, yeah,
4 a.m., 3:15, eat my meals, get my macros and go work out. I haven't worked out in a long time, dude. But I would wake up at 4 a.m. I'd code for a bit, and then I'd go do my work, and then I would and I think there's a bunch of entrepreneurs out there who talk about this, is like you almost have to chew off the bare minimum of your regular job and then like start augmenting your time or making some sacrifices to build this stuff. I always knew I wanted to build something because I knew like the way people were doing it with Excel and stuff was just like not cool, and that I knew there was a capacity because I had done a few like little projects that I was like, there's a capacity here to do something more. And then that started just bleeding into everything I was doing at the job, and I was like, we could do this better, or we could do this, or we could automate this, and that's what I started doing. So I started automating spreadsheet building and stuff with just like your basic stuff, and I was like, this is amazing. And so then when we eventually chose to start Blade Turbines, we ended up trying to get into the leasing market, and then we found out that the realities of the leasing market for like sub $3 million engines just wasn't there. So I was like, what we could do? We could just like, let's just chew off what modeling in the aviation world would look like if we automated it a little bit. And if you look at, a whiteboard of it all drawn out, it all really makes sense. And so at the end of the day now, what we do is we build a platform for analytics and decisions, right? And then we also use that platform to manage our own leases and sell aircraft. And then we also use that platform to, decide when and plan out, and then we purchase and sell parts.
Feeds back.
Yeah, so it all feeds back. So our pricing now as a supplier for UH-60 parts feeds into our platform. So we always get up-to-date pricing. Pricing is a really hard thing to get by in this industry, which is surprising. And then what we do is it builds the platform even more, and then we just got this lease contract for a Black Hawk, and so now we're managing that lease with the platform as well. So it's all this like big cycle that's kind of converging over the last couple of months, which is really nice to see. And so from a building standpoint, yeah, I mean you just make a decision and you start building it. And I did what all the textbooks say to do, right? MVP. So you start in Excel, build it out, take a PDF and give it out
MVP?
to people. Oh, so your minimum viable product, right? Which the paradigm now has shifted so much, right? But with what a minimum viable product would be. But
what does that concept mean?
Oh, so it's like you don't ever overbuild something that you don't know the market needs yet. Go out with what you think the concept should be and get it in front of as many people as you can, and then iterate quick. Instead of building it all into a bunch of different stuff and spending a year building a platform that no one needs, get out the smallest version of that product, get it out there so people can tell you it's...
Trial it, test it, feedback.
Yeah, exactly.
Pay for it.
Yeah, exactly. And so we kind of did that, and it's been cumulative over 2 years, and learned everything. And then I almost said it, but all of the coding agents came out, and now they've really augmented how you work. And I was really lucky to start. I wrote, lines of code, like I hand typed lines of code just before. It all got really crazy, but now I know enough about building this kind of thing to and every day you learn. Every day you're learning more about engineering software now.
Yeah.
And so that shift has been crazy, but it allows you to build so much quicker, which has been great. So that it's like weird how the universe works sometimes, though. I just got in right at what I believe was the best time to learn enough that you needed to learn to understand the concepts from the bare bones, from the nuts and bolts, from the welds all the way up. And now focusing mostly on engineering software, and that understanding helps me build a product that I think you can do with a leaner team now.
Do you think that opportunity exists for any company? Like, I know you don't.
Every company right now.
You know our company because of what I talked to you about. But I mean, do you think there's processes where you can just walk in, you can understand them, how the flow is, where's information going, where does it need to go, break in the process, all that sort of kind of mapping stuff, and then build things? Like, do you think that's actually possible in a lot of companies today that have process?
I think so many people have opinions about this, and so I'll be careful about what I say, but I think it happens. It happens at levels, dude. But if you really want to be serious about it, you could vibe code and all this stuff, and I think the world is beginning to see this, is like you still need to engineer software behind it. Now, vibe coding and everything is really raising the bar for everybody to do that from a coding perspective. Code is cheap now and everybody can do it. But behind the scenes, at an enterprise level, you really do need some engineering behind some of the processes that you're building. It's like I think most of this, at least what I've learned from most of these software implementations at companies, is that they mostly fail because no one's done their homework at the company itself to understand how the processes work. That's still a huge problem, right? Companies face that all the time. We had like an entire semester on just process and understanding it, right? And most companies internally haven't mapped those out. So how are you going to take a piece of software and customize it to your company if you don't even understand your company?
Yeah.
And so I'll be very careful about how I say that. But so if now you want to start designing it in-house, you're still left with the fundamental problem is you haven't mapped out your own company.
Yeah.
But if you can do that, and then you can hire somebody who's capable enough to understand engineering software at a high level. Well, now you have a bunch of mini members of that team that can do the work for them. But let's be really clear here. It's like it allows you to move a lot quicker. But Anthropic is still hiring copywriters, and ChatGPT is still hiring developers. So as much as it's moving you really quick, or copywriters really quick with the use of agents and stuff, and like what I'm trying to say is other industries as well, you still need people to do the work, right? So like because I have a swarm of agents working for me doesn't mean I get to walk off and not do anything, right? it's like I'm still at my computer 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day building the thing, but I'm doing it at like light speed, right? Light speed to compare to, like I've built a product in the last 2 years that, I would still be writing the first lines by myself if I was just typing these out. So, but you still need to hire and devote somebody to that. You can't just like say, hey, that guy knows a little bit about computers. Let's go give him a couple agents and a subscription and he can build us the world, right? So I think just having that understanding and then understanding that implementing software is all the same challenges still. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Does that answer your question, man?
Yeah, that's awesome. And then like closing thoughts to somebody out there building a business, like you've been grinding. It's not the easy road, right? Tons of up and downs. Like, what's the encouragement to people that are? You talked about the curve and like where you are in the curve, how you're feeling, that sort of thing. What's closing thoughts on people building a business?
So many things, and I'm still learning every single day and trying to figure it out. But yeah, man, just like be at the like always at the bottom of the next level. Learn to like lean in with other people around you who are there to help, like experienced people. I think I wasn't a very good manager when I was managing. I made a lot of mistakes, but the one simple thing that I think I carried through all of it is that you don't have to know everything, but it's okay to lean on the people you've employed to help you build everything. You don't have to know everything, right? You don't have to be the guy. You don't have to be the experience. And it's so relevant to the entrepreneurial game, right? Like my skills are 100% building things. I love agentic development and I love this whole new paradigm and I love doing all the technicalities and stuff. But man, do I lean hard on my network and my connections and advisors and people who are there to help. And it's really just comes from open-mindedness, right? And then willingness to grow. And then like always understanding that when you're in a place that's scary and you don't know what's next, like that's the place you need to be because now you're challenging yourself and you're growing and you're building something that no one's done and you're doing the hard thing. So one of the things I always tell myself is like when I get overwhelmed or whatever is like, this is what hard looks like. And you don't see that on Instagram. You see a lot of hustle and grind culture on Instagram. That's cool, right? Like all about it. You see a lot of the perks and maybe some of the money and stuff like that. But I don't really think I've seen, maybe every now and then, like really vulnerable people who are at like the low of building a business and like that overwhelm. And I think that's totally normal and like don't get caught up in it. That's what hard looks like. It's like typically you're on the path, right? And don't get sucked into what the world thinks, If you have 10 years in the industry and you try to build a product and you're on the entrepreneurial game, leverage that, like lean into your instincts, but also like learn to like take all those voices and those people talking to you and advising and like mix those together. At least that's sort of what's worked for me in a roundabout, twisted way over the last 2 years.
It's insightful, man.
It's deep, dude.
That's good, man.
It's deep, bro.
No, that's good. I'm with you, man. Thanks for being on the podcast today, and we're gonna wrap there on those wise words. Building a business.
Maluki, you just cut out the ums and the buts and like maybe some of that helicopter stuff. Like nobody needs to listen to helicopter stuff.
Thanks, man, for being on the podcast.